Hi, I'm Bill Schmelk, and I'm here to introduce you to Lionel's new FasTrack modular railroad. A modular railroad is a system in which a number of individuals each build a portion of what becomes a large layout. Each portion or module of the layout is built to standards that will allow many of these modules to combine into one large operating layout. Three types of modules have been designed: one straight, a full corner, and a reversible corner. Since combining these modules requires owners to bring their modules to an event, the size has been designed so that they can easily be transported in a car. The system has been designed to allow anyone to participate. With tasks such as construction, wiring, scenery, and track laying, this is a great project to involve the entire family, perhaps a scout troop even. And when completed, the opportunity to join with others and create a large layout. And finally, the opportunity to run your trains using Lionel's legacy command control system. A complete specification manual that provides all the details you need to build a module that meets the standards of this new system is now available online and can be downloaded for free at www.lionel.com. You can also purchase a kit that contains the hardware, the wooden table rails, the electricals that you need to build a module. And this is probably the easiest way to ensure that your module will meet all the required specifications. Whether you decide to build a module from a kit or from scratch, we also have available separately a FasTrack modular template. And what this does, this ensures the proper placement of the latches which connect tables together and the track on the module, so that by using this template you can be sure that your module will mate correctly with another module. So let's take a look at what the kit contains. Here's a general overview of what you receive in a module kit. Table frame, front and back and two ends, 4 steel brackets for the legs, 2 rotolock latches or rotolock wrench, terminal strip, assorted hardware, leveling feet, threaded inserts, wiring harness, and 2 sections of FasTrack. In addition to what you receive in the kit, you'll also need some glue. I recommend the yellow carpenter's glue. It's stronger, it dries quickly, and it's sandable once it's dry. I also use a plumber's acid brush, and it's good to have a damp rag handy to wipe the glue joints. And also, I keep my brush in here between joints to keep the glue from drying on the brush. You'll also need a Phillips screwdriver or a drill with a number 2 Phillips bit in it. Okay, so let's start with the straight module kit. We'll start the assembly with the table frame. I've got one of the long pieces which has a rabbet cut for the tabletop, and one of the shorter pieces which is notched for the rotolock latches. We'll also need an 1.5-inch screw and a wood biscuit. When lining these up, notice the biscuit slots in the end. There's one biscuit slot here and one here. Make sure that the off-center of the slot has the 2 narrow sides matching. You would not want this end of the board to go to this piece of wood here. It would not line up correctly. This is what you would want. So we'll begin by putting a little glue here. Then inserting the biscuit. The biscuit will start to expand once it's in there, so once you do that, you want to work quickly. We'll put a little more glue on there. We'll also put some glue on the end piece here. Bring the two together, and then drive it home with the 1.5-inch screw. The hole is pre-drilled. Brings you tight. We'll wipe off some of the excess glue. That completes this joint. You want to repeat that 3 more times. Here's the completed frame. Once it's finished, you might check it for squareness. You can use either a carpenter's square to make sure your frame is square. You can also measure the diagonals. If the frame is square, both diagonals will measure the same. If it's a little out, you can still adjust it. The next step is to install the steel leg brackets. To install the steel bracket, have your frame on the table with the rabbited side up and the bracket against the table. This will actually leave a gap between the bracket and the top once it's on, which is what we want. To secure them, we'll use the 3/4 inch long screws. You'll do that in each of the 4 corners. Once all 4 leg brackets are in place, the next step is to measure and cut the plywood top. It should measure about 29 3/16 by 45 inches, but check your frame to be sure. It's very important that the plywood not extend beyond either end. It's okay if it's a little bit short, but it cannot be larger, because if it does hang over, it's going to interfere with the connection of the next module. Once you've cut your plywood top, you want to check it for squareness. You can do that with a carpenter's square, or by measuring the diagonals, which should be equal. If you have a square top, it's going to help to keep your frame square when you assemble the table. Now our next step is going to be to draw some lines on this to guide us in our nail positions. With a combination square, I'm drawing lines around the outside edge of the top. The 2 end lines are 3/8 of an inch in. On the 2 long sides, those lines are 3/16 of an inch in. We'll use those lines to guide our nail positioning. Now that we have our lines drawn for the nails, we're going to test fit it inside the frame. We want to make absolutely sure that the length of the plywood does not exceed the length of the table. Once it's in here, we want to mark on the top where our latch cutouts are on both ends. So I'm just going to put a mark here, because obviously we don't want to put a nail there. Mark here. We'll mark the other side as well. Once that's done, we're going to remove the piece and drill for the nails. What I suggest is taking one of the nails and inserting it into your electric drill. I've already drilled a couple here, but you just put this now. This is extending out about a 1/2 inch, just enough to go through the plywood. And on these long lengths here, I would tip the drill slightly this way. And then just using the nail as a drill your holes. On your length, you'll use about 7, which is about every 6 inches. When you do this part, you don't want to put any drills between the lines you drew for the latch cutouts. And you always want to stay about 2 inches from your edge on both sides in every direction. We'll now put the nails in, just enough to get them started. We'll continue all the way around. Now we have all our nails just into the plywood, but not through it. Normally at this point we would apply the glue and nail the frame down, but I want to show you a procedure first to make sure that everything is square. So I'm going to run through this without the glue, and then we'll add the glue later in another step. Notice that at the front of the frame I've secured a piece of wood against which I can push the frame, and you'll see why that's necessary. Place this in. And I'm going to square up one corner here, flush, and drive that nail. When the glue is on here, you would drive that home. Now I'm going to do the second corner on the same rail. Nice and flush here. But now I can see that my frame is just a little bit off square here. So with that block of wood there, before I secure the third nail, I can just push this, makes the front flush, drive that nail, and finally the fourth nail. Once that's in, we can hammer, start from the center and hammer all the way around, securing the piece. So I'm going to remove it now, and we'll actually put the glue on and nail it permanently. Just going to put a bead down the center. And right in the corner of our flush up my corner here again. The third nail, we're going to push this in and square it, drive it home. We'll do the fourth corner. Once we have the four corners in, we'll go around and complete the rest of them. Have your damp rag ready to just remove some of the overflow. And now we'll start driving these nails in. And this is something you want to do on the bench. You do not want to do this with the module on its legs. Now that we have the table assembled, the next step is to install the rotolock latches. And to do that, we'll use the FasTrack modular template. When you receive the template, you also receive 4 dowels with it. And these go in the outermost holes in the template. These are a tight fit. Just overhang your piece here. I'll install each one so it's approximately the same distance on both front and back. And that distance is 7/8 of an inch. Like so. Four of these are installed. Same manner. Once assembled, the template is used as follows. With the Lionel L face up, the template is used on the left side and the front. As such, so when using the template, you want to make sure that the dowels are against the table, both in the front and the end. Then we'll use these holes, the 1/4-inch holes, to drill for the latches. The latch has a male and female part, and the male part always goes on the right side as when you're facing front. So with the Lionel L up, we're going to install the female side on the left side of the module. The holes in the template are all made for a 1/4 inch drill. And for the left side, we're going to use these 2 holes, both top and bottom. Take the drill. Be sure to keep your template pushed against the front and the end, and just go through those 2 holes. Like so. On the right side, the Lionel L is turned face down. And again, we push the template against the front and the end. This time we're going to use the leftmost holes here, 1 and 2, and this 3rd hole here, which gives us a hole for the access. We'll also drill this hole for the wrench access. This hole here must now be enlarged to 7/16. These are bolted in place with the number 10 screws, washers, and lock nuts. One thing we need to do before we do that is countersink these holes. Okay, to install this, we're going to, I've stood the module on its back surface, the front being up here at the top. Notice that the rotolock has the latch, and it can be turned 2 ways. We want to turn it so that the latch part is near the rear of the table. In that way, when the wrench is put in and turned, it will be turned clockwise to lock it. So we're going to slide this in like so. Put the 2 bolts in. Like so. Now from the back, we'll place on a washer. And a lock nut. Because these are lock nuts, you'll need a wrench to actually tighten them securely. So we use a Phillips screwdriver and a nut driver here, and secure those nuts. Snug them both up first, leaving them just a little loose. And as you tighten it, you want to make sure you're flush here with the edge, and then just drive it home. You want these good and tight because there's going to be a lot of force exerted when the latch is tightened. For the left side, we use the female part of the roto latch, and this part doesn't matter which way it's turned. It will work in either direction, and it's installed the very same way. The next thing we'll do is install the terminal strip. I've marked which side of the table is the front. Remember that when the module is in its correct position, that your rotolock latches would have the male latches on the right and the female latches on the left. So first, to position this, we're going to draw a center line, which is about 22 3/4. Just make a mark there. And we're going to move this up so that it's positioned between the two sections of track, which is about 3 3/4 from the inside wall here. And we'll put that about like so. It's not really precise, but we want to keep it between the two sections of track. And we'll use 3/4 inch screws and carefully mount that. You don't want to over tighten these because you'll crack the plastic. Okay. Now we'll prepare the wiring harness so we can attach our wires. The wiring harness is 5 feet long. We want to cut that in half. It has a male and a female end, even though they each have one pin of the other. I'm going to refer to the male side as the one with 7 pins, and the side with 7 female holders. So I'm just going to put these together, find the center, and we'll cut each of the 8 wires. Two halves. Next, the ends of these must be stripped, and the amount you strip them is going to depend how you're going to fasten it to the terminal strip. Our recommendation is to use small spade clamps, which will be attached to the wire and more easily fit into the terminal strip. To install these, you'll need a special tool. Sometimes they look like this, or like so. And if you're going to use these, you're only going to strip off a little over 1/4 inch. If you're going to extend the wire and wrap it around the post, you're going to want to take off more. And when these are installed, we're going to place it face down so that when the next one goes in, it'll be easier to get a second spade terminal installed on top of it. So we'll install one of these on each of the 16 ends we now have. Now that we have the terminal strip installed and the wires prepared, I've drawn on here the order in which the wires go from the front. Very important, you must match these exactly, because this one harness is going to plug into the harness from another module, and obviously it's very important that your wires be put in the correct order. So we start with the red wire, and again you want to make sure that the female socket is on the same side as the female rotolock, and the male on the same side as the male rotolock. So let's start. We'll start with the red wire, and I'm going to turn this so that the heavier part is towards the bottom. That just makes it easier to slide a second terminal into under the same screw. So we'll put that in. Next is green. Next is gray. Brown. Black. Blue. Yellow. And finally the white. We'll do the same thing on the opposite side with the male plug. Okay, now that we have all the wires on the terminal strip, we want to drill a couple holes, one for each line of track. In this case, we're going to be installing two lines. So we're going to measure from the outside edge 3.5 inches in, and this is just an approximate measure, and then from there another 6 inches or 9.5 in. What that does, it gives us the holes through which the wire from the track will come through, and it keeps them under the track so they won't be seen when the track is laid. And we'll just drill a 1/4 to 3/8 inch hole in both of these places. The wire that you have connected to the track will come through these holes and connect to our terminal block. The exact manner in which these are connected is shown in the FasTrack specification manual, and it's very important that you stick to those guidelines. Next, we'll take some of the cable ties which are included in the kit, and we'll just tie these wires together. So let me cut the excess off. We also have two of these. These are the large wire clamps. When these are installed, we're only going to install the bottom part of it, which will leave you with something just to hold the harness like so, just something for the harness to clip in and yet still be able to come out. Use the 1/2 inch screws for this and center it like so. This just provides a clamp that we can put this in. And this will then get attached to the other table. One on each side. We also have two other smaller ones which can be used to hold the wire down in the middle. These go around the wire and then a screw through both heads. like so, one on each side. At this point, while we still have the table upside down, we want to do a continuity test to make sure we have a good sound connection. So what I'm going to use for this is a continuity meter. You can also use a digital multimeter set for ohms. The reason I'm using this meter is that this one works audibly, so you can hear that we have continuity. When there is continuity, we get a sound. I'm also going to use a pair of alligator clips here just to make connecting this easy. So we'll start here with the white wire. I'm going to clip this on the white wire here and clip that to my red. It doesn't matter which of the two leads you use. That should match the white wire pin here. So check where the white wire is, and we should not have continuity in any of these other pins, which we don't. That passes. We'll move along to each wire next to the red one here, and the red one here, but not at any of the others. Check all 8. You should only have continuity on one. Do this for each of the 8 wires. Okay, we're going to install the wire now for the 2 lines that we plan to have. And what I'm using is the wire that Lionel supplies with its straight terminal section. And these clips will fit right under the screws we have here. So for the front line, the red goes to the red wire, which the red is the center rail of the first line. We'll slip that right under there and tighten. The outside rails for all of the lines go to the black terminal. So this is the front line. I'm going to put that through the front hole. Then we'll install the second line. And as the chart in the manual specifies, the center rail line goes to the white terminal for line number 2. So the red we stick on we connect to the white wire. And the outside rail again goes to black. So we have that connected to the black and the white, and these go through the table to connect to our second line. Okay. For the straight module, we're going to install 2 lines of track here, and we're going to use a 30-inch section and a 10-inch section. And we'll put those together now. Next, we'll line this up and wire the track. I want to point out that we did move our hole. This was the hole we initially drilled, but I've moved it over a bit so that when we wire the track, the wire will never have to cross one of these ribs here, because those are flush with the bottom, and if we cross that, there'll be a little bump in the track. So the best thing would be to drill these holes once you get your track positioned correctly. And the red wire always goes to the center rail. We'll put that on now. I want to be sure that's slid on as far as it can go. And the black goes to the outside rail. The next thing we'll do is secure the track to the table, and for this we'll use number 4 sheet metal screws, pan head, 3/4 of an inch long. These are not supplied with the kit. And I would like to point out that some sections of track, especially those that have the square holes, these screws will not fit through the hole. So what we've done is just taken an 1/8 inch drill and gone through these holes, and there's plenty of room for that. And after doing that, the screw will slide in. What you don't want is the screw to be screwing into the sides of the hole here. You want it to be loose in the track and tight in the wood. Once doing that, we're going to use the track template to position the track. So once again, we're at the front and we position the template against the front and the side, and then just place the track right in the spaces for it. You want to keep the track pushed against the template and the template against the wood, both front and side, and we'll secure that. The same thing with the second track. Now we'll flip the template over and do the same thing on the right side. Always being sure that the template is snug against the end and the front. Once the two ends are done, we can place the rest of the screws in and fully secure this section of track. Now that our track is installed, we want to make one more continuity test just to make sure we have continuity from one end of the track to the other. So once again, so we should have continuity between the outside rail, inside rail, outside rail. Now with one pin on the outside rail, I'm going to check all the other outside rails. We should also have continuity there. We should not have continuity with the center rail. And that all checks out. Okay. Next, we're going to do one more continuity test using the female side of the harness. Okay, I'm now on the white wire, which means I should have continuity with the center rail of the second track and nothing else. That checks. Now I'm going to put this in the red, connect it to the red wire, and we should only have continuity with the center rail of the first track and nothing else. That checks. Now I'm going to put this in the black, and we should have continuity with every one of the outside rails. Not the center. And everything checks out. We can now be pretty secure that our module won't be one in the middle that doesn't operate. We have continuity in the line, and everything is properly connected. We're going to prepare the legs now. The legs are made from 2x2s, which are not supplied in the kit, but are readily available at your local lumber yard. These are 2x2 cedar pickets. You can also get treated lumber, but we tend to see that treated lumber is much more warped, and it's even smaller than 1.5 by 1.5, which is what this measures, and what a standard 2x2 is. So I've marked the center with an X, and I'm going to use an 11/32 drill, and I must drill in at least the length of that thread, so at least 1 inch into the wood. Next, we're going to insert the threaded insert, and I'm going to set it on the floor for this. We'll start that and just hammer it home. Now the leveler can be screwed into that. And to start with, we'll leave it at about halfway in. So we now have a 1/2 inch up or down to adjust the leg. We'll do this with all 4 legs. Okay, now we're going to install the legs. One thing I meant to mention too is that the leg must be cut, the 2x2 is cut at 31 inches, and then you have 1 inch adjustment with your leveler. So we're going to put this in here until it hits the top of the table, and then you use the 3/8 hex head bolts, go right in here. I'm just tightening this hand tight right now, which really seems to hold it pretty well. You may want to take a wrench and tighten it a bit more, but you don't want to force it too much either. So we'll put 4 legs in like that, and our module is ready to stand up. Okay, we have our module up. When joining 2 modules, you'll use the 2 sections of 1/2 inch straight that are supplied with the kit, 1 on each line, and this would connect with the other module. Also, this is the wrench to use with the rotolock. This goes in the hole here, and you turn clockwise. This would be the female, which would be in the other table, and this is what happens when you turn it. First it grabs it, and then it actually pulls it in tight, like so. And that's how two modules are joined together. And now you can understand why the exact positioning of these is very important. For the corner modules, both the full corner and the reversible corner, we've included a full-size paper template, giving you the exact shape of the finished product. And what I've done is taped that piece of paper down, and then taken 2-inch packing tape and applied it to the corners wherever there's going to be a glue joint. And the ones you especially need are these 2 here. So the first thing you would do is assemble the 2 ends, the 2 end pieces, just as we did with the straight module. Once those are set, you can add the center pieces. And the best way to glue these is to take a joint, put the wood biscuit in, apply the glue, and just press this together. What happens now is that the wood biscuit swells with the moisture of the glue, and in about a minute you should be able to let go of it, and that joint will be tight. So you do all your joints here. Press it all together, and just make sure that it stays within the lines that are drawn on the template before it dries. Once the frame is glued together and dry, you can flip it over upside down and lay it on your piece of plywood, and then use a pencil to simply mark from the inside the edges like so. Along the ends, just take a straight edge on the outside, and now you can draw from the inside here and get your line. When the plywood is cut, it will be flush on the 2 ends, but 3/8 of an inch in from your front and back. You can also simply take your paper template, measure in 3/8 from the front and back on these lines, and then cut that out and use that on your plywood. With the reversible module, you also have a decision to make as to where the rotolock latches are attached. For example, if this is being used as an outside corner in much the same way as a full corner is used, this would be the front edge, and your rotolock latches would go on just as we did in the straight module, with the male portion on the right and the female on the left. But if you're installing this as an inside corner, this becomes the front, and you use your template against this edge, and again with this as the front, your rotolock latches would actually be reversed from the way they are if this is the front. Both your rotolock latches and the wiring harness. So when you install the latches, you must decide whether this will be used as an inside corner or an outside corner. Okay, I'm just going to illustrate here how the corners assemble to the modules. This is the full corner and would be used for a normal curve. But let's say you wanted to do an L-shaped layout. You would need a reversible corner here because it's an inside corner rather than an outside corner. It is not possible to use a full corner module in this location and keep the track going correctly, because if I put this here, the track is here, but the track on the corner module is here. So with a reversible module, we can make this the front, and it will work. Keep in mind that where the track is considered the front. So if you're going to use a reversible module as an inside corner, this must be considered the front when you use the template, so that the male rotolock would go on the right side and the female rotolock on the left side. If you were using a reversible module as an outside curve, then this side is the front, and the male rotolock would be here and the female there, just the opposite that it would be if it were an inside curve. Well, now that you've seen how we build a module, I hope you'll be encouraged to join in and build a module or two. The kits and template can be ordered online at www.lionelstore.com. Also featured there are several bundled accessory packages that are particularly suited to decorating your module. To whet your appetite further, here are some photos of modules built and decorated by TW Trainworks using these accessory bundles. Mike Reagan, Lionel's Director of Customer Service, is preparing a video that will explain how power is wired to the layout and how Lionel's legacy command control will be implemented. So be sure to check out Mike's videos at www.lionel.com on this and a wide variety of other topics. And be sure to check back at lionel.com to learn about events where a module railroad will be set up and see how you can participate in building a large operating layout. Thanks for watching, and hope to see you at a FasTrack module event.